Positive by Choice. Train your mind to find opportunities, build resilience, and create a better life. Published by Enlight Audiobook. Discover how small shifts in thinking can unlock extraordinary resilience, lasting confidence, and a life guided by purpose instead of fear. Introduction. A compass cannot calm the storm, yet it can guide a traveler safely through it. The human mind works in much the same way. While it cannot prevent hardship, disappointment, or uncertainty, it has the remarkable ability to determine how those experiences shape the course of a life. More often than not, the future is influenced less by what happens to us than by how we choose to respond. Positive by Choice is not about pretending that life is always easy or forcing yourself to feel happy when challenges arise. True positivity is neither naive optimism nor wishful thinking. It is the conscious decision to seek possibilities where others see obstacles, to learn from setbacks instead of surrendering to them, and to cultivate resilience that grows stronger with every challenge faced. Throughout this book, you will discover how your thoughts influence your emotions, how your emotions shape your actions, and how your daily choices quietly build the life you eventually live. Drawing on practical psychology, timeless wisdom, and relatable insights, these pages will help you replace limiting beliefs with empowering perspectives, strengthen your emotional resilience, and develop habits that support lasting confidence and fulfillment. Every meaningful transformation begins with a single decision. By choosing a more positive way of thinking today, you are not escaping reality. You are equipping yourself to face it with greater courage, clarity, and purpose. That choice has the power to change not only your mindset, but also the direction of your life. Chapter 1. Why your mind looks for problems. First, a single crack in a beautiful glass window captures more attention than the thousands of flawless reflections surrounding it. The mind behaves in much the same way. It instinctively gravitates towards what appears broken, uncertain, or threatening, often overlooking the abundance of what is stable, promising, and good. This tendency is so deeply woven into human nature that many people mistake it for reality itself. Yet what we notice is not always an accurate picture of the world. It is simply the picture our brain has learned to prioritize. Understanding this hidden tendency is the first step towards taking back control of our thoughts and, ultimately, our lives. Long before cities rose above the landscape and technology connected continents in seconds, survival depended upon vigilance. Our ancestors who noticed the rustle of danger in the bushes were more likely to stay alive than those distracted by the beauty of the sunset. The human brain evolved to scan constantly for risks, preparing the body to react before conscious thought had time to catch up. This remarkable survival mechanism protected generations from predators, natural disasters, and countless unseen dangers. Although the world has changed dramatically, the brain still operates with much the same ancient software. Today, the threats are rarely wild animals. Instead, they arrive as criticism, financial worries, workplace pressure, social comparison, disappointing news, or fear of failure. The brain responds to these modern challenges with the same urgency it once reserved for genuine threats. This explains why one critical comment can overshadow 10 sincere compliments, why a single mistake at work can replay in your thoughts long after several successful achievements have faded from memory, or why uncertainty about tomorrow can rob today's accomplishments of their joy. The mind is not deliberately trying to make life difficult. It is simply performing the task it was designed to do, protecting you. The difficulty arises when this protective instinct begins to dominate every decision, causing caution to replace curiosity and fear to silence opportunity. Psychologists refer to this natural tendency as the negativity bias. Research has consistently shown that negative experiences leave a stronger impression on the brain than equally positive ones. Bad news spreads faster than good news, painful memories linger longer than joyful moments, and failures often seem more significant than successes. This bias influences not only what we remember, but also how we interpret the world around us. Left unchecked, it quietly convinces us that life is more dangerous, more unfair, and less hopeful than it truly is. Perhaps no modern story illustrates this better than that of J.K. Rowling. Long before millions of readers discovered the magical world of Harry Potter, her own life seemed to be moving in the opposite direction of success. She was a single mother, raising her daughter while struggling financially, battling self-doubt, and facing one rejection after another. Publishers repeatedly declined her manuscript, each refusal reinforcing the possibility that her dream would never become reality. From the outside, there appeared to be little reason for optimism. Her circumstances gave every excuse to believe that failure was inevitable. It would have been understandable if she had accepted those rejections as proof that she lacked talent. The human mind naturally searches for evidence that confirms its fears, and every rejection could easily have become another brick in a wall of hopelessness. Instead, Rowling chose a different interpretation. She recognized that rejection was not a final verdict, but part of the journey. Rather than allowing disappointment to define her identity, she continued refining her work and sending it to new publishers. Eventually, one small publishing house decided to take a chance on her story. That single decision transformed not only her own life, but also the lives of millions of readers across the world. The remarkable lesson in Rowling's journey is not simply that persistence leads to success. Many people persist while secretly believing they are destined to fail. The real transformation occurred in the meaning she attached to each setback. She refused to treat rejection as evidence of personal inadequacy. Instead, she viewed it as information, experience, and another opportunity to improve. Her circumstances did not change overnight, but her perspective allowed her to continue moving forward when many others would have stopped. This same principle applies to everyday life, even when our challenges seem far less dramatic. Consider the employee who receives constructive feedback from a manager. One mind interprets it as confirmation of incompetence and withdraws from future opportunities. Another sees the same feedback as guidance for growth and returns stronger than before. The event is identical, yet the interpretation creates two completely different futures. Our minds rarely respond to reality itself. They respond to the story we tell ourselves about reality. Fortunately, the brain possesses an extraordinary quality known as neuroplasticity, its ability to form new patterns throughout life. Just as years of negative thinking strengthen certain mental pathways, repeated positive and balanced thinking strengthens new ones. This does not mean ignoring difficulties or pretending problems do not exist. Rather, it means teaching the mind to notice possibilities alongside obstacles, lessons alongside mistakes, and opportunities alongside risks. Every time you consciously shift your attention towards what can be learned, improved, or appreciated, you are gradually retraining your brain to serve your future instead of merely protecting your past. Positivity, then, is not an accidental personality trait reserved for a fortunate few. It is a deliberate mental discipline. The goal is not to silence fear completely, because fear often carries valuable information. The goal is to ensure that fear no longer becomes the loudest voice in the room. When awareness replaces automatic reaction, you begin to recognize that your thoughts are influences rather than instructions. They deserve to be examined, not automatically obeyed. Every meaningful journey begins with awareness, and this awareness marks the first quiet victory. Once you understand that your brain naturally searches for problems, you stop blaming yourself for every anxious thought or pessimistic assumption. Instead, you gain the freedom to pause, question your perspective, and consciously choose a more constructive response. The world has always contained both obstacles and opportunities. The difference between those who merely endure life and those who flourish often lies in which one they train their minds to notice first. Chapter 2. Changing the story, you tell yourself. The most influential voice you will ever hear is one that no one else can hear. It speaks without moving its lips, offers opinions without being invited, and quietly interprets every success, every mistake, and every possibility long before the world has the chance to respond. It accompanies you into every interview, every difficult conversation, every ambitious dream, and every unexpected setback. This silent narrator does not simply describe your life, it shapes it. The stories you repeatedly tell yourself become the lenses through which you view reality, and over time, those lenses determine not only what you believe is possible, but also what you are willing to attempt. Every individual carries an internal narrative built over many years. Some of its pages were written during childhood through the words of parents, teachers, and friends. Others were added by painful experiences, disappointments, victories, and failures. Without realizing it, we begin to accept these stories as permanent truths. A student who once struggled with mathematics may continue saying, "I'm just not intelligent enough," decades after leaving school. A professional who experiences one failed business venture may quietly conclude, "Success isn't meant for people like me." These statements may feel factual, but they are often nothing more than interpretations repeated so frequently that they begin to resemble reality. The remarkable truth is that your brain rarely distinguishes between the stories you consistently repeat and the reality unfolding around you. Modern psychology has demonstrated that repeated thoughts strengthen neural pathways, making familiar patterns easier to access over time. Every time you rehearse an idea, whether empowering or limiting, you reinforce it. Thoughts gradually become beliefs. Beliefs influence decisions. Decisions create habits, and habits ultimately shape destiny. This is why changing your life often begins not with changing your circumstances, but with changing the language of your inner conversation. This principle comes vividly to life in the journey of Jim Carrey, long before he became one of the world's most celebrated actors. As a young man, his family struggled financially, and there were periods when they lived in extremely difficult conditions. His dreams of becoming a successful performer appeared far removed from his everyday reality. Auditions often ended in rejection, opportunities were scarce, and there was little external evidence that success was close. Many people in similar circumstances would have allowed repeated disappointment to become the defining chapter of their identity. Instead, Carrey consciously chose to rewrite the narrative unfolding inside his mind. He famously wrote himself a check for $10 million for acting services rendered, dated it several years into the future, and carried it in his wallet as a symbol of the future he intended to create. More importantly, he repeatedly visualized himself succeeding while continuing to refine his craft, perform wherever opportunities arose, and persist despite rejection. The check itself possessed no magical power. Its true significance lay in the story it represented. Rather than repeatedly telling himself that failure was inevitable, he trained his mind to believe that his current circumstances were temporary, and that disciplined effort could bridge the gap between where he stood and where he wished to be. Years later, after relentless work and unwavering commitment, he earned exactly that amount for a major film role. His achievement was not the product of wishful thinking alone, nor did positive thoughts somehow replace hard work. His success emerged because a constructive inner narrative sustained his motivation when external evidence offered little encouragement. The story he chose to believe influenced the actions he chose to take every single day. Many readers misunderstand positive thinking because they assume it requires denying reality. It does not. There is a profound difference between saying everything will be easy and saying this challenge is difficult, but I am capable of learning how to overcome it. The first ignores reality, the second acknowledges reality while preserving hope. Genuine optimism is rooted not in fantasy but in possibility. It recognizes obstacles without surrendering to them. Consider how differently two individuals might respond after making the same mistake during an important presentation. One quietly repeats, I embarrassed myself, I'm terrible at public speaking, and gradually begins avoiding future opportunities. The other reflects, I made mistakes today, but every skilled speaker has improved through experience. My next presentation can be stronger. The event remains identical, yet the stories attached to it create entirely different futures. One narrative builds invisible walls, while the other opens unseen doors. Changing your internal dialogue does not happen overnight because the mind naturally returns to familiar patterns. Negative stories often feel convincing simply because they have been rehearsed for years. Yet every time you pause before accepting a limiting thought as absolute truth, you create space for a different interpretation. Instead of asking, "Why does this always happen to me?" you might begin asking, "What can this experience teach me?" Rather than concluding, "I'm not good enough," you may ask, "What skill can I develop next?" These subtle shifts appear insignificant at first, yet they quietly reshape the architecture of your thinking. Language possesses extraordinary power because words influence emotion before action ever begins. A person who repeatedly describes challenges as impossible will unconsciously search for evidence supporting that conclusion. Conversely, someone who views the same challenges as opportunities for growth begins noticing solutions that previously remained invisible. Perspective acts much like a filter on a camera. It does not change the landscape itself, but it dramatically changes what comes into focus. One of the greatest gifts you can offer yourself is the willingness to become an author rather than merely a reader of your own life story. Your past may explain many chapters, but it does not possess the authority to write the ending. Every new decision, every courageous action, and every constructive thought adds another page to the narrative you are creating. Some chapters will inevitably contain disappointment, uncertainty, and unexpected detours, yet those moments need not define the entire book. The conversation taking place inside your mind today is quietly constructing the person you will become tomorrow. Speak to yourself with honesty rather than harshness, with hope rather than helplessness, and with determination rather than defeat. The world will always have opinions about who you are and what you can achieve, but no opinion carries greater influence than the one you repeat to yourself each day. When you deliberately change that conversation, you begin changing your identity, and once your identity begins to change, your future inevitably follows. Chapter 3. Finding Opportunity Inside. Every challenge. A sculptor never begins with a masterpiece. What stands before them is a rough block of stone, heavy, unremarkable, and seemingly ordinary. To an untrained eye, it is simply a rock. Yet the sculptor sees something invisible to everyone else. Every strike of the chisel removes what does not belong, slowly revealing a work of art that had been hidden within the stone all along. Challenges often serve the same purpose in our lives. They rarely arrive looking like opportunities. Instead, they disguise themselves as disappointment, uncertainty, rejection, or unexpected change. The difference between those who merely survive adversity and those who emerge stronger is not that one group experiences fewer hardships. It is that they learn to see beyond the rough surface and recognize the possibility concealed within it. Human nature encourages us to judge difficult moments by their immediate discomfort rather than by their long-term significance. A failed interview feels like a closed door. A business setback appears to erase months of hard work. An unexpected loss can make the future seem uncertain and overwhelming. In those moments, the mind naturally asks, "Why is this happening to me?" While understandable, this question often keeps us imprisoned within the problem. More empowering questions begin to unlock hidden possibilities. What can this experience teach me? What strength is this challenge asking me to develop? What opportunity might I be overlooking because I am focused only on what I have lost? These questions do not eliminate hardship, but they transform the way we engage with it. One of the greatest examples of this principle can be found in the remarkable journey of Steve Jobs. During the early years of Apple, he helped build one of the most innovative technology companies in the world. Yet in 1985, following internal disagreements, he was dismissed from the very company he had co-founded. To the outside world, it appeared to be a devastating failure. Losing the organization that carried his vision could easily have become the defining disappointment of his career. Many people would have interpreted such an event as proof that their greatest achievements were behind them. Jobs later admitted that being fired was painful, confusing, and deeply humbling. For a time, he questioned his future. However, as the initial disappointment began to fade, he noticed something unexpected. The burden of believing he had to protect his previous success disappeared, replaced by the freedom to create again with curiosity rather than fear. Instead of allowing rejection to end his story, he founded Next, invested in Pixar, and explored ideas with renewed creativity. During those years, Pixar produced films that revolutionized animated storytelling, while the technology developed at Next eventually became essential to Apple's future. Ironically, the experience that once appeared to be his greatest professional setback became the very sequence of events that prepared him to return and transform Apple into one of the most influential companies in history. Looking back years later, Jobs reflected that he could never have connected those events while living through them. Only in hindsight did the apparent failure reveal itself as an extraordinary opportunity. His experience reminds us of an important truth. Challenges often make sense only after they have finished shaping us. The value hidden within adversity is rarely visible at the beginning of the journey. Psychologists describe this ability as cognitive flexibility, the capacity to adapt our thinking when circumstances change. Rather than becoming trapped by one interpretation of an event, cognitively flexible individuals explore alternative perspectives. They understand that disappointment is not always a destination. Sometimes it is simply a redirection. This quality allows resilient people to recover more quickly from setbacks because they refuse to believe that one difficult chapter represents the entire story of their lives. Consider two entrepreneurs whose businesses fail within the same year. One concludes that they lack the ability to succeed and abandons every future ambition. The other carefully examines what went wrong, identifies valuable lessons, develops stronger strategies, and begins again with greater wisdom. Their experiences are remarkably similar, yet their interpretations create dramatically different futures. Failure itself possesses no permanent meaning. It acquires meaning only through the story we attach to it. The same principle applies far beyond business or extraordinary success. A student who struggles in a difficult subject may discover resilience and discipline that later become invaluable in a professional career. Someone who experiences rejection in a relationship may eventually develop healthier boundaries, greater emotional maturity, and a deeper understanding of what truly matters. A professional who loses a job may finally pursue a passion that had remained hidden beneath years of routine. Again and again, life demonstrates that endings often disguise themselves as beginnings. This does not suggest that every painful experience should immediately be welcomed with enthusiasm. Genuine resilience is not about pretending disappointment feels pleasant. It is about refusing to believe that disappointment has the final word. Grief deserves to be felt, mistakes deserve to be acknowledged, and setbacks deserve honest reflection. Yet after allowing yourself to experience those emotions, another choice quietly appears. You can remain defined by what happened, or you can become strengthened by what it taught you. Perspective functions much like standing at the base of a mountain. From below, every upward step appears exhausting, and the summit remains hidden by clouds. Yet each step changes the view, revealing landscapes that were invisible only moments before. Progress often feels slow because we are too close to recognize how far we have already traveled. Only with patience do we realize that every difficult climb has quietly expanded our horizon. Opportunity is seldom announced with celebration. More often, it arrives wearing the clothes of inconvenience, uncertainty, and unexpected change. Those who learn to recognize it develop a remarkable advantage. They stop asking whether life will become easier and begin asking how each experience can make them wiser, stronger, and more compassionate. This subtle shift transforms adversity from an obstacle into a teacher and uncertainty into an invitation to grow. Every challenge carries two invisible gifts. The first is the lesson it offers. The second is the person it gradually helps you become. While you cannot always choose the circumstances that enter your life, you can always choose the perspective with which you meet them. Somewhere within today's difficulty may be tomorrow's greatest opportunity, patiently waiting for someone courageous enough to look beyond the surface and discover the masterpiece hidden inside the stone. Chapter 4. Protecting your mind from negative influences. A garden is not transformed by the occasional flower that blooms within it, but by what is allowed to take root day after day. Leave the soil unattended, and weeds gradually spread until they consume the very space where healthy plants were meant to flourish. The human mind follows the same quiet principle. Every conversation you entertain, every headline you read, every voice you listen to, and every environment you repeatedly enter plants something within your thoughts. Some influences nourish confidence, hope, and wisdom, while others slowly cultivate fear, comparison, resentment, and self-doubt. The most dangerous influences are rarely dramatic. They arrive subtly, settling into the mind unnoticed, until they begin shaping the way you see yourself and the world around you. Unlike previous generations, we now absorb more information in a single day than many people once encountered in an entire month. News alerts compete for our attention before breakfast, social media presents carefully edited versions of other people's lives, endless opinions flood our screens, and criticism can travel around the world within seconds. While access to information is one of humanity's greatest achievements, unlimited exposure without thoughtful boundaries can quietly exhaust the mind. The brain was never designed to process an uninterrupted stream of negativity, comparison, and urgency. Yet many people unknowingly begin each morning by inviting these influences into their thoughts before they have even decided how they want to feel. This constant exposure gradually changes perception. When headlines overwhelmingly highlight conflict, tragedy, and crisis, it becomes easy to believe the world contains little else. When social media repeatedly showcases promotions, luxurious holidays, perfect relationships, and flawless appearances, ordinary life may suddenly feel inadequate by comparison. Yet what appears on a screen is rarely the complete story. People naturally display their victories while concealing their struggles. Comparing your everyday reality with someone else's carefully selected highlights is like comparing the rough draft of your life with another person's finished advertisement. The comparison is neither fair nor truthful. Psychologists refer to this tendency as social comparison, a natural habit that once helped humans understand their place within a community. In moderation, comparison can inspire growth. Left unchecked, however, it gradually erodes contentment and replaces gratitude with dissatisfaction. Instead of celebrating personal progress, we begin measuring our worth against someone else's timeline, income, achievements, or appearance. Ironically, the more we compare ourselves with others, the less attention we give to becoming the best version of ourselves. Negative influences do not exist only on digital screens. They often appear in everyday conversations. Some individuals seem to carry discouragement wherever they go. Every opportunity becomes a risk. Every ambition appears unrealistic, and every success is dismissed as luck. Spending extended periods around persistent negativity can quietly reshape our own thinking without us even noticing. Human emotions are remarkably contagious. Just as enthusiasm can energize an entire room, chronic pessimism can slowly diminish confidence, creativity, and motivation. This does not mean avoiding everyone who experiences difficult seasons. Compassion requires us to support others through hardship. The difference lies between helping someone through temporary challenges and allowing habitual negativity to become the atmosphere in which we permanently live. Healthy boundaries are therefore not acts of selfishness, but expressions of wisdom. A boundary is not a wall built to keep people out. It is a doorway through which you consciously decide what deserves access to your mind. It means learning to say no without guilt when constant criticism begins draining your energy. It means limiting exposure to information that creates anxiety without adding understanding. It means choosing conversations that encourage growth instead of endlessly rehearsing problems. Protecting your mental environment is every bit as important as protecting your physical health, because thoughts, like food, eventually become part of who you are. One practical way to strengthen your mental environment is to become intentional about what you consume each day. Ask yourself whether the books you read, the podcasts you hear, the videos you watch, and the people you spend time with leave you feeling wiser, calmer, and more hopeful, or simply more anxious and distracted. Every source of information leaves a subtle imprint. Some encourage curiosity and resilience, while others quietly magnify fear. Small daily choices, repeated consistently, shape the quality of your thinking far more than occasional moments of inspiration. Equally important is learning the art of selective attention. This does not mean ignoring the world's problems or pretending difficulties do not exist. Rather, it means refusing to allow negativity to occupy more space in your mind than it deserves. You can stay informed without becoming overwhelmed. You can acknowledge challenges without surrendering to hopelessness. You can listen to criticism without allowing it to define your identity. Emotional maturity lies not in avoiding reality, but in deciding which realities deserve your deepest attention. Gratitude offers one of the most effective antidotes to unnecessary negativity. The human brain naturally notices what is missing, yet gratitude gently redirects attention towards what is already present. It does not erase hardship, but it restores perspective. A difficult day may still contain meaningful friendships, good health, valuable lessons, or unexpected moments of kindness. The more consistently you notice these quiet blessings, the less power negativity has to dominate your emotional landscape. Gratitude expands awareness, reminding you that life is rarely as dark as fear suggests or as perfect as comparison implies. Perhaps the greatest responsibility each of us carries is becoming a careful guardian of our own thoughts. No one else can decide what repeatedly enters your mind, what conversations you revisit, or which beliefs you continue to nurture. Every day presents countless invitations to fear, comparison, distraction, and discouragement, but it also offers invitations to wisdom, hope, courage, and purpose. The invitation you accept most often gradually becomes the atmosphere in which your life unfolds. Your mind is the home in which you live every moment of every day. Guard it with the same care you would give to your most treasured possession. Fill it with voices that challenge you to grow, ideas that expand your perspective, relationships that strengthen your character, and truths that remind you of your potential. When you consciously protect the quality of your mental environment, positivity no longer depends on favorable circumstances. It becomes a quiet strength that remains steady because it has been carefully cultivated from within. Chapter 5. The Daily Habits of Positive People. The strongest trees in a forest are not those that receive one season of perfect weather. They are the ones that continue growing through countless ordinary days. Their strength is built so gradually that no single sunrise appears to make a difference, yet years later their roots run deeper than anyone imagined. Human character develops in much the same way. Lasting positivity is not created by occasional bursts of inspiration or extraordinary moments of motivation. It is quietly shaped by the small choices repeated every day, often so ordinary that they seem almost insignificant. The habits you practice consistently become the architecture of your mindset, and your mindset eventually becomes the foundation of your life. Many people spend years waiting for a dramatic breakthrough, believing that a major success, a new opportunity, or a life-changing event will finally make them feel optimistic and fulfilled. Yet life rarely works in that order. Confidence, resilience, and emotional stability are usually the products of daily disciplines rather than sudden transformations. The remarkable lives we admire are often built upon routines so simple that they are easy to overlook. Great change seldom arrives with loud announcements. More often, it enters quietly through repeated actions that appear almost too small to matter. One of the most powerful habits positive people develop is beginning each day with intention rather than reaction. Before the world demands their attention, they take a few moments to center their thoughts. Instead of immediately reaching for their phones, reading alarming headlines, or scrolling through endless updates, they give themselves the opportunity to decide how they want to approach the day. Those first few minutes quietly establish an emotional direction. A mind filled with purpose before it is filled with noise becomes far more capable of handling whatever follows. Equally important is the practice of gratitude. Gratitude is often misunderstood as simply listing pleasant experiences, but its true strength lies much deeper. It trains the mind to notice abundance where it once noticed absence. A grateful person does not deny life's challenges. Rather, they refuse to let those challenges become the only story they tell themselves. They appreciate meaningful conversations, moments of good health, opportunities to learn, acts of kindness, and even lessons hidden inside disappointment. Over time, this habit gradually shifts attention away from constant dissatisfaction and towards a richer awareness of life's everyday blessings. The world itself may remain unchanged, yet the person experiencing it begins to see it through clearer eyes. Positive people also understand the intimate connection between the mind and the body. Thoughts influence emotions, but physical well-being quietly influences thoughts as well. Consistent movement, restful sleep, nourishing food, and moments of recovery are not luxuries reserved for those with extra time. They are investments in emotional resilience. A tired mind often exaggerates problems, while a well-rested one approaches them with greater patience and clarity. Even a short walk outdoors, steady breathing, or a few moments of silence can restore perspective when stress begins clouding judgment. Caring for the body is not separate from cultivating positivity, it is one of its essential foundations. Another defining habit is mindful awareness. Throughout the day, positive people regularly notice what is happening within their own minds. They recognize when worry begins to dominate, when comparison quietly steals contentment, or when frustration threatens to influence unnecessary reactions. Instead of allowing emotions to dictate every response, they pause. That brief pause creates space between impulse and action, allowing wisdom to replace automatic reaction. Emotional maturity often begins with something as simple as choosing not to respond immediately. Acts of kindness also play a profound role in sustaining a positive outlook. Interestingly, generosity benefits not only the person receiving it, but also the person offering it. A sincere compliment, patient encouragement, thoughtful conversation, or small gesture of compassion reminds us that our lives possess the power to improve someone else's day. Kindness gently shifts attention away from excessive self-concern and reconnects us with a sense of purpose larger than our own difficulties. In helping others rise, we often discover that our own burdens become lighter. Reflection is another habit that quietly distinguishes positive individuals. Rather than rushing endlessly from one responsibility to another, they occasionally stop to ask meaningful questions. What did today teach me? Where did I grow? How could I respond better tomorrow? Reflection transforms experience into wisdom. Without it, days simply pass. With it, even ordinary moments become valuable teachers. Every challenge becomes a lesson, every mistake becomes instruction, and every success becomes encouragement to continue growing. Perhaps the most overlooked habit is consistency. Positive people understand that lasting change does not depend upon feeling motivated every morning. Some days, enthusiasm comes naturally, while other days, discipline quietly carries them forward. They continue practicing healthy routines, even when immediate results remain invisible, because they trust the cumulative power of small actions. Just as water shapes stone through persistence rather than force, daily habits gradually reshape character through repetition rather than intensity. Science supports this quiet truth. Repeated behaviors strengthen neural pathways within the brain, making positive responses increasingly natural over time. Every grateful thought, every constructive decision, every compassionate action, and every intentional habit reinforces patterns that become easier to follow tomorrow. The brain learns from repetition. What initially requires conscious effort eventually becomes part of one's identity. This is why genuine transformation feels gradual rather than dramatic. It grows beneath the surface long before it becomes visible. There will inevitably be days when old habits return, when discouragement appears stronger than hope, or when progress feels frustratingly slow. Those moments do not erase the work already accomplished. A single cloudy day does not change the climate, just as one difficult week does not define an entire life. Positive people understand this deeply. They refuse to measure success by perfection. Instead, they return to their habits with quiet determination, knowing that every fresh beginning strengthens the person they are becoming. A meaningful life is rarely built through extraordinary moments alone. It is created through ordinary days, lived with extraordinary intention. Every sunrise presents another opportunity to choose gratitude over complaint, discipline over delay, reflection over distraction, kindness over indifference, and hope over fear. Individually, these choices may seem almost invisible. Together, they possess the remarkable power to transform not only the way you think, but also the way you experience every part of your life. In the end, positivity is not something you discover one day. It is something you patiently cultivate, one deliberate habit at a time. Chapter 6. Building confidence through positive action. A bridge is never strengthened by admiration alone. It becomes trustworthy only after bearing weight, enduring storms, and standing firm beneath countless footsteps. Confidence develops in exactly the same way. It is not a gift handed to a fortunate few, nor is it a feeling that mysteriously appears before great achievements. Confidence is built through action. Every courageous decision, every attempt made despite uncertainty, and every challenge faced instead of avoided quietly reinforces a powerful message to the mind. I am capable of handling more than I once believed. While many people wait to feel confident before taking action, those who achieve lasting growth discover a different truth. Action comes first, and confidence follows. One of the greatest misconceptions about successful people is the belief that they began their journeys free from fear or self-doubt. In reality, confidence is rarely present at the beginning of any meaningful pursuit. The entrepreneur launching a first business, The graduate entering a new career, the parent raising a child, and the athlete stepping onto a competitive stage all experience uncertainty. The difference is not the absence of fear, but the decision to move forward despite it. Courage is not the opposite of fear. It is the willingness to continue while fear still whispers in the background. The human brain naturally seeks certainty because certainty feels safe. Whenever we face unfamiliar situations, the mind instinctively predicts possible failure, embarrassment, or rejection. This protective response once helped our ancestors survive dangerous environments, but in modern life, it often discourages growth rather than preserving safety. Opportunities for advancement usually exist just beyond the borders of familiarity. Remaining permanently within a comfort zone may reduce immediate anxiety, but it also limits experience, learning, and personal development. Every significant achievement requires stepping into territory where certainty cannot yet exist. Consider a young professional preparing to deliver a presentation before senior colleagues for the very first time. Days before the meeting, anxious thoughts begin to multiply. What if I forget my words? What if I make a mistake? What if people judge me? These questions feel convincing because the brain naturally magnifies uncertainty. If the presentation is avoided, temporary relief follows, but something less visible also occurs. The mind quietly concludes that avoidance was necessary for safety, making future challenges appear even more intimidating. If, however, the presentation is delivered despite nervousness, a different lesson is learned. The individual discovers that anxiety can exist alongside competence. Confidence grows not because fear disappeared, but because experience proved that fear was not as powerful as it first appeared. This pattern repeats itself throughout every stage of life. A person learning to drive feels uncertain until countless hours behind the wheel transform hesitation into instinct. Someone beginning a fitness journey may initially struggle through short walks that later become effortless runs. An aspiring writer may question every sentence before eventually completing an entire book. None of these individuals became confident before they began. Their confidence emerged because they kept showing up, improving gradually through repeated effort. Competence creates confidence, and competence is always earned through consistent practice. Positive action also reshapes the stories we tell ourselves. Earlier in this book, we explored the influence of internal dialogue. Action gives those new stories evidence to stand upon. Telling yourself, "I am becoming more capable," gains credibility each time you successfully complete a task that once intimidated you. Every challenge faced becomes proof that growth is taking place. Small victories accumulate quietly until they transform not only behavior but identity itself. Psychologists often refer to this process as building self-efficacy, the belief in one's ability to succeed through personal effort. Unlike temporary confidence based on praise or favorable circumstances, self-efficacy develops from direct experience. Each obstacle overcome strengthens the belief that future obstacles can also be managed. This is why even modest achievements possess extraordinary value. Completing a difficult conversation, learning a new skill, keeping a personal promise, or following through on a meaningful goal may appear insignificant in isolation. Together, these moments become powerful evidence that you are capable of more than your fears once suggested. An equally important aspect of confidence is accepting imperfection. Many people delay taking action because they believe they must first become perfectly prepared. They wait for complete certainty, flawless plans, or ideal conditions. Unfortunately, perfection is an endlessly moving destination. There will always be another skill to develop, another detail to refine, or another reason to postpone beginning. Progress belongs not to those who wait for perfection, but to those willing to improve while moving forward. Mistakes are not signs of inadequacy. They are evidence of participation. Every accomplished individual carries a history of imperfect beginnings hidden beneath visible success. Positive action also changes how others perceive us. Confidence is surprisingly contagious. People naturally trust individuals who demonstrate initiative, consistency, and resilience. They recognize those who honor commitments, remain dependable during difficulties, and continue learning from setbacks. Such trust is rarely earned through confident words alone. It is built through repeated actions that reveal character over time. Reputation, much like confidence itself, grows gradually through consistency rather than dramatic moments. There will inevitably be occasions when results fail to match expectations. Projects may not succeed, interviews may not lead to employment, relationships may not unfold as hoped, and carefully planned efforts may encounter unexpected obstacles. During these moments, it is tempting to interpret temporary disappointment as permanent failure. Yet positive action teaches a different lesson. Every attempt, regardless of its immediate outcome, contributes valuable experience. Skills improve, resilience strengthens, and wisdom deepens. Even when success remains delayed, progress is still taking place beneath the surface. Imagine climbing a staircase in dim light. Standing at the bottom, the upper floor cannot be fully seen, and the journey may appear uncertain. Yet each step reveals the next one. Confidence grows in precisely this manner. You do not need complete visibility before taking the first step. You need only enough courage to take the next one. With every step, your perspective expands, your balance improves, and your belief in your own ability quietly strengthens. Your future is not shaped by the opportunities you merely admire, but by the actions you repeatedly choose. Every time you speak despite nervousness, begin despite uncertainty, persist despite setbacks, or continue despite slow progress, you cast another vote for the person you are becoming. Confidence is not waiting somewhere ahead, reserved for a future version of yourself. It is being constructed today through the ordinary decisions you make when no one else is watching. The moment you choose action over hesitation, growth over comfort, and perseverance over fear, you begin building a confidence that no circumstance can easily take away. Chapter 7. Surround yourself with better energy. A candle loses none of its light by illuminating another, yet a room filled with extinguished candles can never become brighter until someone chooses to ignite the first flame. Human relationships work in much the same way. The people who surround us rarely determine our destiny outright, but they quietly influence our thinking, our emotions, our habits, and the standards we set for ourselves. Every conversation leaves an imprint. Every friendship reinforces certain beliefs. Every environment either expands our vision or gradually narrows it. Over time, these invisible influences shape not only how we see the world, but also how we see ourselves. If positivity is a choice, then choosing the right environment becomes one of the most important decisions we can make. No one succeeds entirely alone. Behind every resilient individual is often a network of people who offered encouragement during moments of doubt, honest guidance during seasons of confusion, and quiet support when progress seemed painfully slow. These individuals may not always possess extraordinary wealth, fame, or influence, but they contribute something far more valuable. They remind us of our potential when we struggle to recognize it ourselves. They celebrate progress without envy, challenge complacency without condemnation, and offer wisdom without demanding perfection. Such relationships become places of renewal where confidence is strengthened rather than diminished. The opposite is equally true. There are environments where negativity quietly becomes the accepted language. Every new idea is dismissed before it has the opportunity to grow. Every ambition is met with skepticism. Every success is explained away as luck, and every setback is treated as proof that improvement is impossible. Spending enough time in such an atmosphere gradually reshapes even the strongest mindset. Doubt becomes familiar, enthusiasm begins to fade, and dreams that once felt achievable slowly appear unrealistic. Rarely does this transformation happen overnight. Like water slowly wearing away stone, constant negativity works patiently until confidence begins to erode almost unnoticed. This reality is not an invitation to judge or abandon people who are experiencing genuine hardship. Every person encounters seasons of pain, uncertainty, and discouragement, and compassion calls us to stand beside those who need support. There is an important difference, however, between helping someone through a difficult chapter and allowing chronic pessimism to become the permanent atmosphere of your own life. Healthy relationships create space for honesty while also leaving room for hope. They acknowledge problems without becoming imprisoned by them. They encourage responsibility instead of helplessness and growth instead of resignation. One of the most powerful ways to cultivate positive energy is to intentionally seek conversations that elevate your thinking. Spend time with people who ask thoughtful questions, share meaningful ideas, and inspire you to become wiser rather than merely busier. A single encouraging conversation can shift your perspective more profoundly than hours of anxious thinking. Likewise, reading insightful books, listening to educational podcasts, attending uplifting seminars, or joining communities built around learning and personal growth can significantly influence your emotional environment. Although these sources may not know your name, they can still become valuable mentors whose ideas quietly shape your future. Equally important is learning to become the kind of person others find energizing. Positivity is not only something we receive, it is something we contribute. Every interaction offers an opportunity to leave someone feeling stronger rather than weaker. A sincere word of encouragement, patient listening, thoughtful appreciation, or genuine belief in another person's potential can have lasting effects that extend far beyond the moment itself. People may not always remember every conversation, but they often remember how someone made them feel. Becoming a source of hope for others strengthens your own mindset because generosity naturally shifts attention away from fear and towards purpose. Healthy boundaries remain essential in protecting this positive environment. Boundaries are often misunderstood as signs of distance or rejection, yet in reality they are expressions of self-respect and emotional wisdom. They allow you to care deeply without carrying burdens that do not belong to you. They permit kindness without sacrificing peace. Sometimes protecting your energy means limiting conversations that repeatedly drain your optimism. At other times it means respectfully declining invitations that consistently lead you away from your values or goals. Every time you establish a healthy boundary, you create more space for relationships that genuinely nourish your growth. Another powerful source of positive energy comes from serving something greater than yourself. Communities built around volunteering, mentoring, collaboration, or shared purpose often provide a deep sense of belonging. When people unite around meaningful goals, individual worries begin to feel smaller within the larger picture. Service reminds us that our lives possess the ability to influence others in ways we may never fully recognize. It transforms positivity from a personal pursuit into a shared experience, strengthening both the giver and the receiver. The emotional atmosphere you create within your own home also deserves careful attention. Families, friendships, and workplaces often mirror the emotional habits practiced most consistently. Gratitude expressed regularly becomes contagious. Respect encourages openness. Encouragement builds confidence. Calm responses reduce unnecessary conflict. While no environment can remain perfect, one person's commitment to kindness and emotional stability often inspires others to respond in similar ways. Positive energy spreads quietly, much like sunlight gradually filling a room at dawn. There will always be individuals who misunderstand your ambitions or question your decisions. Some may project their own fears onto your future, not because they wish to harm you, but because they cannot yet imagine possibilities beyond their own experiences. Listen respectfully, but remember that advice should be weighed according to its wisdom rather than merely its volume. Not every opinion deserves equal influence over your life. Protecting your vision sometimes requires politely stepping away from voices that consistently diminish your confidence while drawing closer to those who encourage thoughtful growth. Perhaps the greatest truth about human connection is this: the people around you influence the person within you. Every relationship either strengthens your character, challenges your assumptions in healthy ways, inspires courageous action, or gradually weakens your belief in what is possible. The choice of who occupies your inner circle is therefore one of the most significant investments you can make in your future. Choose companions who celebrate integrity more than appearance, progress more than perfection, and purpose more than popularity. Choose environments that remind you of who you aspire to become rather than who fear tells you that you are. Positive energy is never accidental. It is cultivated through intentional relationships, meaningful conversations, healthy boundaries, and a sincere desire to bring out the best in both yourself and others. When you surround yourself with people who encourage growth, speak with wisdom, and live with hope, you discover that optimism becomes easier to sustain. More importantly, you begin contributing that same energy to the lives of everyone you meet. In doing so, you create a circle of influence where positivity is no longer simply a personal choice. It becomes a lasting legacy that continues to brighten lives long after your words have been spoken. Chapter 8. Creating a Positive Future. One choice at a time. A river does not carve its way through solid rock because it is stronger than the stone. It succeeds because it never stops flowing. Day after day, year after year, each small movement appears insignificant on its own. Yet together, those countless moments create valleys, shape landscapes, and alter the course of the earth itself. Human lives are transformed in much the same way. Rarely are they changed by one spectacular decision or a single life-altering event. Instead, they are quietly shaped by thousands of ordinary choices that accumulate over time. Every thought you nurture, every habit you repeat, every conversation you engage in, and every response you choose becomes another gentle current guiding the direction of your future. The extraordinary life many people dream of is often nothing more than the natural outcome of ordinary choices made consistently. Throughout this journey, one truth has emerged again and again. Positivity is not something that happens to fortunate people. It is something intentionally practiced by those who understand the remarkable influence of perspective. You have discovered that the mind naturally notices danger before opportunity, yet it can be trained to recognize possibility alongside uncertainty. You have learned that the stories you tell yourself quietly shape your identity, that challenges often conceal valuable lessons, that your environment influences your thinking, that daily habits strengthen emotional resilience, that confidence grows through action, and that meaningful relationships nourish hope. None of these principles demand perfection. They ask only for consistent commitment. One of the greatest misconceptions about personal growth is the belief that meaningful change should happen quickly. Modern culture often celebrates dramatic transformations while overlooking the quiet process that makes those transformations possible. We admire successful entrepreneurs without seeing the years of preparation behind their achievements. We applaud confident speakers without witnessing the countless nervous presentations that built their confidence. We recognize healthy, fulfilled individuals without appreciating the small daily disciplines that shaped their lives over many years. Progress is usually invisible while it is taking place. Like the roots of a tree growing beneath the soil, The most important changes often happen where no one else can see them. This understanding brings tremendous freedom. You no longer need to measure your success by comparing yourself with someone else's journey. Instead, your greatest competition becomes the person you were yesterday. Every thoughtful decision becomes meaningful because each one contributes to the direction of your future. Choosing patience over anger, gratitude over complaint, learning over excuses, courage over hesitation, or kindness over resentment may seem like small victories, yet they quietly strengthen the character that determines every larger success still to come. Great lives are rarely built upon occasional heroic moments. They are built upon consistent, ordinary choices, repeated with extraordinary intention. There will undoubtedly be days when your progress feels uncertain. Some mornings enthusiasm will come naturally, while others will begin beneath the weight of disappointment, fatigue, or self-doubt. There will be moments when old habits attempt to reclaim familiar ground, and when setbacks tempt you to question how far you have truly come. During those seasons, remember that growth is seldom a straight line. Nature itself teaches this lesson. Every tree experiences winter before spring returns. Every sunrise follows a period of darkness. Every meaningful journey includes unexpected detours. Temporary difficulty does not erase lasting progress unless you allow it to become your stopping point. One of the most empowering truths you can carry beyond these pages is that every new day offers another opportunity to begin again. You are never permanently defined by yesterday's mistakes or last year's disappointments. Human beings possess an extraordinary ability to adapt, learn, and evolve. Every decision you make today becomes part of a new pattern that gradually reshapes your thinking. The brain continues learning throughout life, which means your future remains remarkably flexible as long as you remain willing to grow. No matter how many times you have fallen short, your next thoughtful choice still possesses the power to move you in a better direction. As you continue your own journey, remember that positivity is not measured by how often you smile or how perfectly your life unfolds. It is revealed through your willingness to remain hopeful when circumstances become uncertain, to continue learning when mistakes occur, to show compassion when others lose patience, and to keep moving forward even when progress feels slow. Real positivity is resilient. It acknowledges reality without surrendering to it. It chooses purpose over pessimism and possibility over fear. There is also profound value in recognizing how your choices influence the lives of others. Every encouraging word spoken to a discouraged colleague, every patient response offered to a family member, every act of kindness shown to a stranger, and every example of resilience displayed during adversity quietly ripples outward in ways you may never fully witness. Positivity is deeply contagious. Just as negativity can spread through a workplace, a family, or a community, so can hope, courage, generosity, and optimism. The future you create is never yours alone. It becomes part of the world experienced by everyone whose life intersects with yours. One day you may look back and search for the moment when everything changed. You may expect to find a dramatic breakthrough, a single conversation, or one extraordinary achievement. More likely, you will discover something far quieter. You will realize that your life changed the day you stopped waiting for perfect circumstances and began making better choices with the circumstances you already had. You will recognize that confidence grew one courageous decision at a time, resilience strengthened through each challenge faced, and happiness quietly emerged from gratitude practiced on ordinary days. The future you once hoped for will not have appeared by accident. It will have been patiently created through thousands of deliberate choices that seemed almost invisible while you were making them. As this book comes to the threshold of its final chapter, carry one simple truth with you wherever life leads. You cannot always choose the events that shape your path, but you can always choose the mindset with which you walk it. Every sunrise offers another invitation to think more wisely, act more courageously, love more generously, and live more intentionally than the day before. The life you desire is not waiting at the end of a perfect road. It is being built quietly and faithfully through the choices you make today. Choose them well, and the future you create will become a reflection, not of chance, but of character, resilience, and the extraordinary power of a positive mind. Conclusion. Finishing this book is not the end of your journey, it is the beginning of a new way of thinking. The world around you may remain the same, but the way you respond to it can change everything. That is where lasting transformation begins. Throughout these pages, you have discovered that positivity is not about ignoring difficulties or pretending life is perfect. It is a conscious choice made every day. It is choosing hope over fear, learning over regret, gratitude over complaint, and courage over hesitation. These decisions may seem small, but repeated consistently, they have the power to reshape your mindset and your future. There will be moments when challenges test your confidence and old habits try to return. Do not see these moments as failure. Every setback is another opportunity to practice resilience, every mistake is a chance to grow, and every new day is an invitation to begin again. Progress is never about perfection. It is about continuing to move forward with purpose. Remember that your thoughts shape your actions. Your actions become your habits, and your habits create the life you live. Every positive choice you make, no matter how small, brings you one step closer to the person you want to become. At the same time, your attitude has the power to encourage and inspire those around you, creating a ripple effect that reaches far beyond your own life. As you close this book, carry one simple truth with you. Your future is built by the choices you make today. Choose optimism when fear appears, kindness when frustration rises, and perseverance when the path becomes difficult. A positive life is not created in one extraordinary moment, but through countless ordinary decisions made with intention. The next chapter of your life is waiting to be written. Make it one defined by resilience, purpose, and the unwavering belief that your greatest opportunities still lie ahead.